There we go. Okay, so as I said, we are going to get we're going to look at their tape machine plugin collection. Their 4 tape machines. Jim's asking, hey Jim, how are you? Dave, when would you use a mono bus over a stereo bus? For what, Jim? Just like as part of a busing system? I typically always use stereo, but if you're asking like what you see on the screen here, like this little song that we use for our demos here, our drum bus is in stereo, our bass bus is in stereo, but it really could be mono because it's a mono source going to it. The lead vocal could be mono. You know, anything that's a mono track that's going to a bus, if that's what you're asking. You can use mono or you could use stereo. I typically default to stereo, but you can use mono. But for things like drums where there's panning, anytime you have a bunch of tracks going down to a bus and there's panning involved, you want to use stereo. If everything's just straight up the middle, mono's the way to go. Does it really matter one way or the other? Not really, not generally. So it could be either one. So hope that helps. Like I said, I typically always default to stereo, but sometimes I'll use mono. So here we go. So the 4 tape machines we're going to look at. Now this is our little Angels and Amplifiers song that we use on YouTube here because it's the only thing one of only a few that don't, hey Peter, how are you, my friend? That doesn't get copyright claims, right? So that's why we have to use it. When it works, it's a good tune. It's a small tune. There's no mix on it at all, just a static mix. I put all the tape machines on the master bus. We'll go through them. Right now they're all in bypass mode. Here's a little loop of the song if you're unfamiliar with it.
I know the season's right for change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so that's a track we're dealing with. You guys have heard that before. Peter says Studio One is very much like Cubase. Yeah, that's true. A little insider secret for people that don't know the history of Studio One. Studio One, when first developed, part of the team that designed Studio One were actually ex-Steinberg engineers who designed Cubase. That's one of the reasons why it's very Cubase-esque, or at least it was more so Cubase-esque in the beginning. It's moved away a little bit from that over the years, but it's very Cubase-like, and that's one of the reasons, because part of the team that designed it is part of the team that designs Studio One. So some of the features that were brought over from Cubase, and I used to use Cubase prior to Studio One with Pro Tools for a long time, and Cubase was a wonderful DAW, really is. I mean, I don't know if it is anymore. I haven't used it in a long time. I'm sure it's still great. They probably upgraded a lot of their stuff, as all DAWs do. The reason why I left Cubase to go to Studio One, the only reason why I left is because at the time, back in the days when everything was 32-bit, the Cubase, or excuse me, Studio One was the only DAW at that time that was 64-bit that took advantage of all the horsepower in your machine in my 2009 Mac Pro, where Cubase was not, and neither was Pro Tools back then. That was my original reason for switching, and then once I got into Studio One, I really liked it. I never turned back, but now everything is 64-bit. Another little bit of trivia, we're talking about DAWs, people may not realize that Universal Audio's Luna, which is very Pro Tools-esque in workflow and in cleanliness of the interface and such, actually has Avid design people help design that as well. It's one of the reasons why it's very Pro Tool workflow-like, but better. There's some Avid engineers, not all, but part of the team were Avid engineers that helped designing Luna. A little piece of trivia for you. Okay, so there's our track. So we're going to look at 4 tape machines, and we're going to not just listen to them. I'm going to take you through them. We're going to break open the Ik-Multimedia manual here so you guys can see the difference. The first one we're going to take a look at. Now, the first thing I'll say about all these tape machines is that they sound great. The reason why they're on the master bus and they're not put on every individual track like you would see me do with something like the Slate Digital VTM or some of the other tape machines that are on the market is because they're incredibly CPU intensive, incredibly. So for example, let me just, let me turn this one on here and let me just show you the performance monitor here in Studio One. Now here's something that's interesting about Studio One 5.4. If you don't know this and you're a Studio One user, and if you should go watch my video anyway, you'd learn this. But one of the new features that they have is this thing called plugin napping. And if I click on show devices, you'll see all the plugins that are there. And what plugin napping is if there's no audio playing through the particular plugin, or through the song like it isn't right now, you'll see under the devices section these little half moon icons. That means that the plugin is in napping mode. When it doesn't see any audio going through it, it puts it to sleep. So it helps preserve or conserve some of your CPU power. So you can see right here, I'm only running at 1%, and that's because we're not playing any audio. But if I just were to play audio through, see, when I turn it on out of bypass mode, it goes to 26%. Okay, so each one of these plugins has lots. So you couldn't put 40 of these in your session. But if I play back a little audio through this quickly. Okay, it stays at 26 because it's not in bypass mode. If I put it in bypass mode, it goes to nap. Just so you know that. So that's a new feature in Studio 154. For everybody keeping score at home. Okay, so we're going to look at 4 tape machines tonight. This one is the Tape Machine 99. Okay, then we're going to look at, come on now, here we go. This is Tape Machine 80. We're also going to look at Tape Machine 24. And then last but not least, Tape Machine 440. So let's start with Tape Machine 99. Now, because I just can't play the plugin, I have to give you a history lesson because that's what I do here. So we're going to go right out to the Ik-Multimedia website and we're going to take a look at this so you can kind of know what this thing is modeled after if you don't know anything about tape machines. So which one did I say this one was? We're going to do the Tape Machine 99, right? So Tape Machine 99. Let's scroll down to Tape Machine 99. Okay, so Tape Machine 99 here is one of these old school reel-to-reels. This is a RevRox PR99MK2, a stereo professional recorder produced by Studer in the 1980s. It was engineered around a hybrid design that combines the best of discrete op-amp topologies. This model offers a very smooth frequency response, especially on bass. So we'll keep that in mind when we listen. Almost with no trace of typical head bump. Okay, which usually with tape, it usually gives a nice low-end bump, especially in the low end. It was a standard for broadcasting classical music. Well, that makes sense. If it doesn't have that head bump phenomenon, it would be used for something where you don't want to hear that, right? The machine was appreciated by audiophiles for its exceptional sonic quality. So there it is, all in its glory. Great tape machine. Let's listen to it. If I can get it open again. We'll walk through the controls. Here, let me unbypass it. Okay, so all of their tape machines are kind of laid out the same way. Over here, we can change the tape speed to 7.5 to 15 inches per second, okay? Down here in the left-hand corner, we have our input. We have a reset to reset it to factory default. We have a bias control, a level, high-frequency EQ. On the repro section or the record heads, and then on the play heads, so you have two different, you got a record head and a play head, right? So you have two different levels of high EQ frequency that you can mess with if you want. We have auto calibration. We have this thing called true stereo. And what true stereo means is that when it's in true stereo mode, it means that there's no difference between the left and the right as far as the way the tape, the way it affects the left and the right signal. When it's not in true stereo mode, if I read that right, I think I got that, I don't have that backwards, there could be some slight variations to the left-right signal, which is the way tape machine kind of were. And then we're also where you can model the transport, the transport section of the tape machine. You could turn that on or off as well. All of these things will just have a little bit of a subtle difference. Not all that audible, but very subtle differences. And we'll flip through these. And then we have an output knob. We also have 4 tape formulas here, the 250, the 450, the 499, and the GP9. Each one of those are going to kind of go from 250 in sequential order will be a little bit more present sounding. As it gets to the 456, the 499, and the GP9, it gets a little bit more bottom heavy. We'll listen to that as well. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start on 15 IPS. We'll play back this little section of music. We'll hit the input, so we're hitting the tape at a pretty good level. We will go ahead and we will turn down the output so we can level match it, and then we'll flip through some of the features. Let's go.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright. Feel away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
So just cycling through the 4 tape formulas, you really don't hear a real big change, very subtly, because remember, this is more of an audiophile tape machine, right? We read in the manual that there is none of that low-end bump. It's more transparent. That's the way it was designed. It was used for broadcast boards and classical music, where it was very kind of subtle. It'll lop off the top end just a little bit, and it really is more just to compress it and kind of just glue it together. It's not going to have a lot of tonal shift. Let's just we'll switch back to the 250, and then we'll go to the 7.5 inch per second, and we'll flip through the tape formulas, and let's see what that does.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright.
So you hear the biggest jump between the 250 and the GP9, and the GP9 tape formula, which is pretty much on every manufacturer's tape machine plugin, will typically have the GP9 formula. Is my favorite formula. It's the most modern sounding. It's just the one that my ears kind of gravitate towards, but they all sound pretty good. We could mess around with these EQ. Let's turn the true stereo on and off and the transport modeling on and off, and let's see what that does. And then we'll just bypass the entire plugin so you can kind of hear what it's doing.
Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
So these little high frequency EQs do something. You can actually hear it here on the record head. And the reason why tape machines would have that, just so you know, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with tape machines and the way they kind of work, is the part of what you kind of lose when you run audio through an analog tape machine is it lops off or shaves off the top end. It rounds off the top and you lose some of the high frequencies. So they put this back to add that back. Okay, so the way tape kind of works is when you run, the harder you hit the tape, the more compression, the more saturation you're going to get. You're going to get a roll off of the top ends. And again, every tape machine is going to be a little different on how dramatic that effect is, but you're going to lose some of that. And if you want to bring it back, you can do that with the high frequency EQ. That's why they give you both on both the playhead and the record head.
Come back to life. I'm alright
So again, when you just bypass this on and off, it's very subtle. Now, if your ears are trained and you've been doing this a while, if you've been working with me here at Home Recording Made Easy or over at mixingmadeeasy.net, by the way, I'm sure Dave will put a link in the chat for that. We talk a lot about this in depth in our monthly training content. And over time, your ears start to get tuned. I could hear very clearly what this tape machine does, but it is on the subtle side. So if you're someone who has a difficult hearing the on and off difference with this tape machine, it's okay. It is very subtle, but it's supposed to be subtle. So again, I'll start with it off and I'll turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. So you could just watch the bypass button and you could hear what the tape machine does.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arrange. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright. Feel away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so you could hear there, again, it's very, very subtle. Now you could see I'm also pushing this thing almost 12 dB and I'm turning down the output 12 dB to compensate. And we're hitting the tape pretty hard here, which is typically how you would use an analog tape machine. Now the reason why people some people don't understand why in the analog days, in the analog world, you wanted to hit the tape hard. Yes, you wanted the harder you hit the tape, the more saturation, the more color, a little more compression, lopping off of the top end, like I said. But the real reason why we would hit the tape hard is to get above the noise floor, to get above the hiss, because tape inherently has a lot of hiss in it. This one, not so much, because this is one of those tape machines that I don't know, is there like a noise reduction to turn it on and off? This one just maybe in and of itself may not have a lot of tape hiss modeled in it because it was a very clean tape machine, as we were talking about. This is more of an audiophile tape machine. But to get above that hiss and that noise floor, you had to hit tape hard so the music and the loudness of the music would get above the noise floor. That's the real reason for it. And the more you hit that tape, the more goodness you get out of it as well. So that is kind of, again, this particular tape machine, again, very different than any other tape machine. It sounds great. Tape Machine 99. It's really, really great. It's got, again, if you want something subtle, if you just want something to kind of glue it together and you don't want a lot of saturation, a lot of hype, a lot of low end bump, this may be a tape machine you want to check out. So let's turn that one off and let's go on to the next one. What's the next one we're going to listen to? Oh, gee, I don't know. This one is going to be the Tape Machine 80. So let's go back to our user manual and let's learn a little bit about the Tape Machine 80. All right. Tape Machine 80, here it is. Okay, so this is a multi-track tape machine, as you can see. The legendary Studer 880 MK2 and its various revisions is an essential part of countless influential records engineered and manufactured in Switzerland from 1970 to 1988. It became de facto standard for professional high-end multi-tracking. The 880's sonic signature is a perfect blend between transparency and subtle harmonic enhancement. Okay, so this is a multi-track tape machine. So there are really two types of tape machines you would see in the studio typically. You would see something like this, a multi-track tape machine. This particular one is a 16 channel, and I think they might have made 24 channels at one point in time. A 16 channel, and then you would have a 2 channel or a stereo tape machine. And the way it would work would be, is that you would record off the live floor, and before you hit the console, you would hit tape. You would hit a multi-track tape machine. And then after you hit the tape machine, it would go out of the tape machine, it would go into your console, through your preamps, all of that, mixed through the master bus and out to a 2-track tape machine. Okay. So this is a multi-track tape machine. So this is one of the few companies, well, there's a couple. Universal Audio makes the Studer 800 multi-track tape machine plugin, and Slate Digital's VTM, the virtual tape machine, is really 2 plugins in one. With the flip of a switch, they modeled the multi-track tape machine and they also modeled the 2-track tape machine. And those you could put all across your tracks. Again, with this, if you look at our performance meter, this one would be very challenging to put on all of your tracks because it's 23%, 25% with one instance. So if you had a 16-track session and you tried to put this on all 16 tracks, you'd have a tough time. Your computer would crap out, at least mine would. Okay, and I got a high-power machine here. Okay, so even though it's modeled after that, which is cool, you may be able to put this on 4 or 5 instances on this if you just put it on your buses. But then again, this is only one plugin. So if you put any other plugins on your thing, you're going to have a hard time. So this is really, again, used merely for more of the master bus, at least in my opinion. And again, we have the same kind of layout here, but the tape reels are on the bottom instead of on the top. But we have our input here. We have our different tape formulas right here. Same tape formulas as before. This one, we have a 15 IPS and a 30 IPS as opposed to 7.5 and 15. Okay. So again, for folks that are new to tape, the slower the tape spins, okay, the more compression, a little bit more bottom end you're going to get, a little bit more lopping of the top end. 30 IPS per second, it's going to be a little bit more open sound, and you're going to have a little bit less compression, okay, the faster the tape is spinning, all right? Then we have all our bias controls, same in the center, and then we have our true stereo transport modeling. So it's all the same controls, just rearranged a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and let's give a listen to this. I'll set it up and we'll give it a listen.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so you can instantly hear that low end bump a lot more obvious than on the other tape machine. Okay, it's not drastic, but you can hear it, especially on the GP9 formula. Just turning the tape machine on and off, you're going to get that low end bump. That's what tape kind of does.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life?
Okay, so that's on 30 IPS per second. Let's go to 15. So again, the tape machine 250, 456, 499, GP9. In the way I kind of think about it in my head is the 250 is more vintage and it gets a little less vintage. And by the time you get to the GP9, it's more modern sounding. That's how I kind of think of it, just so you guys know. So let's try 15 IPS per second and let's cycle through the tapes.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so now if we play with the high EQ frequency, now this one also has, on the playhead, this has also a low frequency EQ and a high frequency EQ on this particular tape machine. And on the record head, it only has a high frequency EQ. So we have low and high here.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me
So the low frequency EQ adds a lot of low end to this. And so maybe what that might be useful for is if the GP9 wasn't your flavor and you liked maybe some more of the vintage stuff, which tends to be a little less low end in my ear to my ear, you can use the low frequency EQ to kind of add a little bit of that into this tape formula sound that you didn't get from the other tape machine.
And I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you. I know the seasons about to change, it's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged, you're tearing me down. Where does the peace?
So again, this transport modeling in the true stereo is just that left-right dynamic I was telling you about. The transport modeling, again, it's a little bit of an EQ shift. It's very, very subtle. So, you know, I just keep everything on because why not? And really you can just use the little EQ circuits here and then play around with your tape speed and your tape formula and you could dial it in. But just going from on to off, just bypass to enabled, much more audible difference than the last tape machine that we looked at.
Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
All right, so big difference there, big difference. And we're using some high-end EQ on that. So that is our tape machine 80. Let's see, what's the next one we're going to listen to? We'll listen to the 24. So let's get our manual out. Let's see what's about the 24. Here we go, tape machine 24. So here's another multi-track tape machine. This is of an MCI model JH24. The first produced in 1980, the JH24 was a staple in US studios during the 1980s. This completely is transformer-less, right? No transformers. High-performance opto-amp-based design delivers a pristine phase and remarkably true to the source audio performance. This results in a moderate and elegant polish to your music. Okay, so this is another one of those multi-track tape machines. Okay, really cool. So this is going to give us, has no transformers in it like some of the other tape machines obviously do. And this is going to give us a more polished sound according to their website. Really? Okay, let's see. Let's see. Polished sound, maybe you're right. All right, so again, let's turn it on. Let's hear what we got. We'll set it up and we'll rock and roll. Okay, let's go through the controls. So controls, again, the same, just, you know, look a little different. We have our input here. We have our true stereo and our transport modeling. We have our repro and input section. We have 250, 456, 499 GP9. And then we have 15 and 30 IFs per second as the last tape machine. And then we have all of our bias controls here. And we also have the low frequency EQ on here as well. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a listen and we'll dial this one in.
I know the seasons about to change, it's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged, you're tearing me down. Where does the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so to me, to my ear, there's a lot more subtle difference between these four tape formulas, okay, from an EQ perspective. So again, it's a little bit more transparent. It doesn't have that real low end bump like the last tape machine did. Now, again, we can add that in using our low frequency here.
Changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. Changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life?
Okay, so going from 15 to 30 IPS per second, a little bit more compression on the 15 IPS, and that's what's going to happen because the tape is moving a little bit slower. And again, we hear that low end bump in this because I used the low end frequency EQ. If you kind of take this out back to where it was, you won't really hear it as much.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
And so it sounds great. It has a little bit of a different sound, but it sounds really cool. And they also have a bunch of presets here, by the way, as well. So you can always go through, save presets. You know, you have a whole bunch of different presets you can always play around with. And so that is Tape Machine 24. So let's listen to our last one here, which is going to be Tape Machine 440. Let's learn a little bit about the 440 here. Let's go back up here. Tape Machine 440 must have been the first one. Here it is. Okay. So this is an Ampex 440B, and it dates from the late 1960s, delivers an unmistakably source of color that has made this professional and historic mixing and mastering machine a legend. This superb blend of art and technology has power to turn your mixes into finished tracks. Hey, how about that? So this one should have the most color, I would think, just based on what that just said. Let's see. All right, here we go. So again, everything's laid out the same way. We have little sliders here to change our tape formulas, which is kind of cool. We got a 7.5 and a 15. Okay. And so these more older school from the 60s tape machines, they all had 7.5 to 15. They didn't really have 30 IPS per second until more of the 80s on these designs. And then again, we have all of our EQ little things here. We have a low frequency EQ here as well. And then we have our true stereo and our transport modeling. So let's give this one a whirl and let's see what this one sounds like. Here we go.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too. piece of you.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go to 7.5 inches. You just can't click on it. You actually got to take the thing and slide it, which I wish you could just click on the tape formulas, but you can't. So you got to kind of be a little clever with your mouse or your trackball here. So let's go to 7.5.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you. And I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around.
Okay, so it's really cool. Sounds really great. I mean, it's not really overly hyped, which is great. It's kind of subtle, which is really the way it should be. It shouldn't be way overhyped. It sounds really good. So we have 4 very distinct but subtle between the difference between the 4 different tape machines here. So now let's do this. We could we get them all on the screen here? I don't know if we can do that. We could try. We could try running them all. Oh, I gotta pin this, right? Yeah. Hold on. Oh, come on now. Let's see if we can get them all on the screen. I could just do it right from the master bus, but you guys probably want to see the little tape thing, right? So let's see if we can get these up here, and let's see if we can switch from one to the other. And again, the settings aren't exactly the same. We realize that, right? So let's just try to, can we do this? Can we do it? Oh my goodness, we can do it. Look at that. You don't need to see me. It'll cover me up a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start in the top. We're going to bypass these other. We'll go from left to right. So we'll start with our top left here, tape machine 24. Then we'll go over to the right here, tape machine 99. So we'll do the 2 top ones and then the 2 bottom ones. And we'll go tape machine 440, and then we'll go tape machine 80. And if one is super loud than the other, they're way off, I'll try to balance them as we go. And just keep your eyes on the little bypass buttons. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start with our tape machine 24, and let's see what the differences are.
I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where does the peaceful...
And let's just put them all on the same tape speed here. We'll start with 15, because not all of these have 30. So let's do 15 ips, just because. 15. Okay, here we go.
Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you. And I'll be fine cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I know the seasons like to change, it's changing all around. I know the reason.
Okay, so there's the four. I mean, they're different, but they're similar, right? I mean, they're not way different. Someone was asking about CPU. Let's see, we have all four of these. Now, because we don't have anything playing, we're in nap mode right now, but we're running at 25%. So let's put them all on. Ooh, and we'll unbypass them all. We'll probably sound like total hell, but let's just see what happens to the CPU. So we're going to put them, let me put this down here somewhere. So we have to unbypass all of them in order to do this. Oh, we're going to make it 71. Oh, we're at 92. Okay. So, and some of this also too, I'm running OBS, right? So I'm running software, other software. So we're running at 94, 95%. We haven't played any audio yet. It's all tape machines are on, and we'll see if this craps out. I hope it doesn't crap out our live stream. I don't think it will. If we get some really weird artifacts, I'll shut it right off. So let's just see what happens. Oh yeah. Yeah, we get all kinds of crackling. See that? Okay, so there's a great example of why you can't put these across all of your tracks, like if you use the multi-track one, because it craps it out. Now I'm using an 8-core processor with 64 gigs of RAM in it. Granted, it's from 2017. It's an iMac Pro. It's not like some of the newer machines that are super fast, but you'd still have the same issue. You can use 1 or 2 of these in a session. That's it. But that's really what they're made for. Okay, so there's the CPU usage, just so you know. Okay, so they take about 25% per machine when they're in bypass mode, or then they're going to go to nap if you have 5.4 Studio One, so you don't have to worry about that. So there is our 4 Ik-Multimedia tape machines. Again, they're really cool. If you don't have any tape machine plugins in your collection, I recommend that you at least have one. This bundle's kind of cool because for $200 you get all 4, and it's the only 4 tape machines you'll ever need. You'll never need another tape machine plugin again. So go check out the oh, Dave just put it in the chat. See, Dave's on top of it. Go check it out at Sweetwater. You can download it right away. Sweetwater's the best place to buy plugins, and you'll buy them, pay the same price you pay on Ik-Multimedia, and you get better customer service, especially if you have a problem. So you can go pick those up. Now you could just pick up one for $99, I think, on the website on Sweetwater, or you can get all 4 for $199. So if you don't have tape machine plugins, get this bundle. You'll never have to buy another bundle again. They are some of the best tape machine plugins I own, and we've done live streams and I've done videos and stuff on all the other ones. The Slate Digital Virtual Tape Machine is fantastic as well. I think these are better. The Universal Audio one stuff I really like, but if you don't have Universal Audio hardware, that doesn't mean anything to you. The Waves Abbey Road J37 people ask me about from time to time. That's great too, but that's not one of these 4 tapes. Actually, the tape 440 is probably more like the J37. It's in that same 60s vibe kind of a thing. But the J37's got its own special sound to it as well. The Abbey Road, that's a really good one too. And you can get that on sale for $30 at waves.com. You can actually also buy that at sweetwater.com for $25, the Waves J37. That's a great tape machine as well. But you may want to check these out. They're really cool. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go back to the chat room here. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to help or talk or chat. We got